In Tudor England, there is a title called the Groom of the Stool. And the Groom of the Stool was literally the person who pretty much handled the king's bathroom business. So whenever the king used the bathroom, he would be right there to assist the king. Let's just put it that way. And today it seems disgusting, right? But back then, being the groom of the stool, was actually a high position. Like the groom of the stool, he had a lot of power and he had a lot of like land the king would gift him. The king would gift him, you know, different types of manners and different types of, places to live and businesses or whatever. The king will hook him up because the groom on the stool had the king's ear. He was with the king in the king's most intimate sessions. It was usually the groom of the stool when, somebody like King Henry VIII went to go visit one of his concubines or one of his mistresses. It would be the groom of the stool that would be kind of leading the king at night to one of those girls' like apartments that was usually adjacent or close to the king's apartments or whatever. And you got to think about it. This guy was powerful and he had land, he had a noble title, he was among nobility and all of that, access to the king, but he had to wipe the king's butt. He had to wipe the king's behind. Basically, what I'm saying is that in this world, there's always a trade-off. You can be a NEET and you can have your anime and your peace or whatever, but then at the same time, you're going through it because everybody in your family is like, oh, how come you don't have a job and you need to work and you need to do this and you need to do that? How come you're not in school? How come you don't have a girlfriend? How come you're not married? How come you don't have any kids? You got to deal with that, and dealing with that can be an emotional overload, especially when you know the reasons. Because you're an unattractive guy and you work at a dead-end job. So you're never going to attract a female with a cute face, a slim waist, and a nice behind, because most of those girls are taken or they have so many options and so much availability that you're never going to be even in the top 10, hell, let alone the top 1,000, right? So it's brutal. So no matter how much effort you put into this world, there's always something to balance it out. No matter how much good happens in the world, you're always going to have a bad. It's just, it can never just be 100% good. You can never just have your cake and eat it too in this world. Only some people can do that. But guys like us in this position, unfortunately, we're bombarded from different angles, from all types of stress and all types of trauma. There's always some invisible pressure, like something can change in your life, but then like when something changes in your life, something that may have bothered you before may go away, but then now there's something new. There's like a new type of problem that takes that other thing's place that's just as bad or worse, and it causes you anguish as well. So this world has a way of balancing out your happiness. So let's say you're a NEET and you got the benefits of being a NEET or whatever, but then you get a 9 to 5. Now when you have the 9 to 5, you pretty much lose your freedom. You have to depend on other people's emotional fluctuations. If your boss at work is having a bad day and decides to take it out on you, there's nothing you can really do about it because you need the job. That creates stress. That creates a sense of intimidation and fear. And you dread going to work every day because you don't know if your boss is going to snap on you or if your coworker is going to keep on talking about you or if you're going to be the one that snaps. And so that creates this emotional dilemma. That creates this negative emotional paradigm that we find ourselves trapped in, and there's certain preliminary prerequisites that are required for the sustainability of the cognitive functionality of the human mind. And these are basic love. You have to feel loved and you have to have some type of goal or some type of mission in life, right? I think the human mind, the human spirit, I think we all want to find something that we feel like we're really good at and or just something that makes us happy, something that we can do that can take away the pain of living in this insane world, and we have to cope with that, you know. Um, what sucks is that in this world, you can go to school, you can do all of that, you can spend all your time going to school, getting your doctorate degree, all that, and become a doctor, And then one night you go to a party with your friend and a girl says something, you know, next thing you know, you're in prison. Just like that, with the snap of the fingers, everything you worked for all those years, going to doctor school, the medical school, and all this, and all it took was just one night and one girl that was being malicious and being vicious to just make something up about you, just so they can, like, people, what people don't like you, they like to justify the reasons for not liking you. So they would like to just make stuff up about you that they don't know. Like they'll just say, "Oh, you're this type of person, or this person did something bad." They'll say that you did something just so they can validate the reason for disliking you, because they really don't have any reason for disliking you, and they're the bad guys attacking, but they don't want to like the bad guys. You know, it's like these people are. When somebody is that far from the truth, you can't really reason with people like that. You honestly can't. You know, there's something there's something to being isolated, though. There's something to be to being alone, you know, like there is a calm peace to it, you know, like when you're alone and you're isolated, there is a peace to it, but you can definitely tell something is missing. But as I get older, I'm understanding that my peace is worth $1 million, you know, like honestly, like having peace when you're older is like even more important, because you know your body's a lot more stressed, you know, than when you're young, and you can recover from sickness. You can recover from, you know, if you fall and hurt your arm or something like that, or hurt your leg, you can recover faster. You know, your your viable revitalization speeds are more in tune in your youth, you know, so you can be rejuvenated a lot more easier. And you can gain more strength and more focus when you're younger. That's why, you know, people that learn languages, they learn multiple languages usually when they're young. People can still learn them older in life, but like the brain synapses haven't fully formulated or connected at those younger ages. So like it can expand more, you know. Meanwhile, as you get older, some of those brain things, some of those neurons and those synapses, they kind of just freeze in place, and it's harder. Not impossible, just a little harder to make new brain cells for new things, you know. This world really sucks. When you really just look at this piece of crap world, you know, like me, I've always been the person that's seen life for what it is. I've always seen through this. I've always seen that this world it's like some type of nightmare. Honestly, like I was watching a documentary, right? It was about this bird. It's a small little bird that if you look at, you think like a cute little honey bird or something. But I think it's called the butcher bird. Serious, that's the name of it. It's called a butcher bird. And what the bird does is this: it goes and hunts even smaller birds, or it hunts lizards, it hunts rats, squirrels, it hunts like different types of insects. And pretty much this bird, it makes its nest among like those sharp bushes, and like it will gather like a lot of those sharp like bushes or whatever, and it'll put it around its nest and stuff like that. And so what this bird does is, let's say it finds a lizard, it would find a lizard, pick the lizard up, and then impale the lizard like Vlad the Impaler, like impale the lizard, and then start, you know, devouring it. And I'm just looking at this like, what kind of sick god would create something like that? Like there's just, and like as you see around this nest, you see like all these lizards and different types of like, mammal, like little squirrels impaled, and it's just like, wow, it's called the butcher bird. You can Google it and look it up and see it for yourself. And it's like this bird could have done anything. Instead of taking an animal and impaling it and then eating it slowly, how come this bird couldn't just eat honey? You know, or eat little berries and stuff? And like, yeah, sure, it'll probably eat that if it come across it, but I'm just saying, how come it can't exclusively do that? Like, what god, what creature would create that you have to feast on other things to be able to sustain yourself? That's called parasite. That's called being a parasite, right? Pretty much, that's called being a parasite. Basically, you know, just that. This is what it is. When you have to get strength, like when you have to get like when your strength and validation relies on external forces and not internal forces, it's always going to be weak, because true strength comes from the inside. True strength comes from your own soul and your own heart. If you Because like you're not going to be able to depend on a person. You can try to put you, oh, my strength comes from this person here. That person's a human being. They can lie, they can cheat, they can make a mistake. They're humans. And so if your strength depends on some other human who you really don't have any control over, then your strength is just, what is it? Your true strength is going to come from you, come from your own belief, come from your own, you know, validation of your own confidence, you know, however you handle that and however you see it, right? Because for some people, just surviving their life is an accomplishment. Because for some people, their lives are so hard that just surviving it day to day is an accomplishment. Meanwhile, for somebody else, graduating college is an accomplishment. You see, there's different types of perceptions and perspectives in life. And it takes one who knows empathy and compassion and understanding to understand different perspectives in life. Ignorant people and people that are arrogant usually, and usually narcissistic, they just think that their perception on life is the right way. No, I look at things from all angles, from all angles, from all of them, you know. And one thing I've noticed is that humanity has been in a tragedy for a long time. Humanity has been pretty much trained, trained to just be followers and be obedient and do as they're told. If we were the men of like ancient Sparta, you know, or ancient Rome, do you not know how many men would rise up right now due to the conditions of the government? How many men in those days would have said F it? They'll have been all out. Like, it would be like the Roman Civil War, right? And the United States has had a civil war in the past. you know, Many countries have had civil war. All countries, all the mainstream countries have had civil wars. Japan has had countless civil wars. China has had countless civil wars for thousands of years. The same with Egypt. Like all these places. Europe, England had civil wars all the time. you know. Um. So it's interesting, man, how even though we have this advanced technology, we have all these things that people of the ancient times would think it's magic. Even though we have it, people are still ignorant. People are still pretty much stupid. And what I mean by that is that you see this younger generation, they don't have the ability to read, they don't have the ability to really write. And is it really their fault? Because is it your fault that you wasn't taught anything? If you weren't taught financial literacy, you become an adult and you struggle with poverty, and let's say you're over 25 years old. You're over 28, you're over 30 years old, and you're still struggling with money. That means you weren't taught financial literacy. So if you're not taught financial literacy, who's really to blame? Of course, as you get older, as an adult, you got to learn these things, but you can't learn what you don't know. If you don't even know how to make money, then besides getting a 9 to 5, then you're already trapped right there. So a lot of these kids are not being taught to read and write. And I think the proliferation of social media made it so, because you see some of the most entertaining entertainers, and I don't want to name names because I ain't trying to diss nobody, but the big streamers, let's just say that, right? And these big streamers, they're not the most intelligent people. They're not the most adequate people for idolization. These are people that are just there to be gestures, to just make the masses in the matrix keep their mind, in a docile state of laughing at just the most stupidity, brain rot you can imagine. It's like, if you have an audience that big and you're not teaching them wisdom and spiritual knowledge and the acclamation of spiritual truths, if you're not teaching that, if you're not trying to teach people how to prepare for what comes next, then what are you doing? We can talk about this existence all we want, but eventually all of us are going to stop existing, and we need to know what happens next to protect ourselves. That's one of the most fundamentally important things. What's going to happen after you take your last breath? Where are you going to find yourself in? Are you going to find yourself in Yaldabaoth's hell? Or are you going to find yourself reincarnated back into this life with your mind wiped after being judged? judged. The nerve of these gods. You know, how dare you try to judge me when you're a wicked, evil God yourself, when you're a bloodthirsty murderer and a marauder yourself as a God. The God of the Bible has shown countless times that he's willing to eliminate people instantaneously if they anger him. The Ark of the Covenant was about to fall. That guy put his hand on the Ark of the Covenant so it wouldn't touch the ground, and Yaldabaoth instantaneously zapped him out of existence. How is that righteous? How is it righteous what happened with Job in the Bible? What did Job do to deserve that? Why is God making bets with people and taking away their lives and taking away their livelihood just for a bet? That seemed like a God you want to spend your eternity with? What if he makes a bet with you? Well, what if that God says when you go to heaven, he can throw you in hell for 500 years and you will still come back and praise him? Would you still praise him after you go to hell for 500 years and come back? You know, right? That he can do it, right? He can do whatever he wants with you in his heavens. So why would you want to be in a prison like that when you can go to the pleroma and go back to what you were, your own divine being? You can create your own heavens and your own realities. That's where we come from. We're from the pleroma. We're not from Yaldabaoth. And that's why we're at war every day. That's why our souls are being attacked and we're being drained off our loose energy, our negative energetic manifestational frequency. There's a reason why it's happening. It's happening because we are divine sparks. We're not from this world. We're not from this God. We are not from this world. Those that are from this world are evil. The gossipers, the liars, the bullies, the predators, the violent idolaters, all those people, the miscreants, the deviants, you know, the psychopaths, the obsessed, the crazies, you know, these people are all demonically possessed by wickedness and evil and by Yaldabaoth's wicked minions. And some of them are just crazy out of their minds, but you know, there are spiritual forces at play here, right? We live in a very complex spiritual world. I know it seems like the flesh is all there is. I mean, because that's all the demiurges want to show us is just the flesh. But there's something definitely beyond this realm. You know, there's another form of existence besides us existing in these bodies that we have. It's going to feel weird. I'm not going to front that once I lose my body, I'm just going to be some type of floating spirit, you know. But I just hope that I'm able to go to the pleroma and gain my power back and become a powerful godlike being, you know. Then I can form back my form to any form I want, you know. And I can create my own heavens. I can create my own worlds. I can create my own creatures, create my own people, create my own anything I want, you know. Create my own private heaven, a giant castle if I desire, and be my own God. And have my own rules and I have my own regulations, right? But I'm not going to be like this God who's an evil bastard, you know what I mean? Like, no. I'm like, my being's going to be blessed and prosperous. They can do whatever they want. You know, my only rules is just don't cause any harm or start any wars, and that's fine. You can do whatever else you want. You want anything else. You can have free food, abundance, wealth, power. You know, like I'll let my beings be so happy and bless them and prosper them if I was a god. But this God seems to want to curse us, and he seems to want us to be in pain. Because according to the Gnostic text, when divine sparks are trapped in physical bodies and they go through this pain, when you go through fear, when you go through doubt, when you have insecurities, whatever's hurting your heart right now, whatever pain that you feel that it's breaking you down mentally, these beings feed off that. Like, have you ever just been chilling and all of a sudden like a certain thought or a certain memory comes into your mind? Like, damn, why did I think about that? And you start getting depressed and getting sad. Like, for instance, you remember going to the grocery store one time and you remember looking at this one girl and kind of smiling at her, and her and her friend looked at you and frowned, you know? And then they walk past you and they're like, ew. You know, they do stuff like that. And you remember that hurt your feelings. And you were so crushed, you just left the store without even buying anything. It's like, F it, right? And then like you're playing Xbox one night and then like you're kind of in a good mood and then that memory just comes into your mind and you start feeling depressed. That's not an accident. There's entities and beings around you that you can't see that deliberately monitor your emotional fluctuations. This may sound crazy, this may sound scary, but there's beings that are around that watch you, you know, and they monitor your happiness. Whenever you get too happy, these beings say, it's time to get loosed, you know, and then something happens, boom, boom, you may hit your toe in accident. Boom, you may order something from Amazon, and the main item you ordered They forgot that, right? You may try to, get DoorDash and then, everything's going good and then the person delivers it to the wrong house, right? Like little things like that would happen. Sometimes the demiurge tries to be low key with it. Other times he's very deliberate and wants you to know that he's done it, you know? So it's like, let me tell you something, man. Like, people not gonna like the truth, And the truth is this, man, like, it doesn't matter what you do. If you weren't destined to be handsome, if you weren't destined to be rich, if you weren't born into a wealthy family, the chances are, especially if you're a guy that's unattractive, you're probably going to pass away alone, with no one, with nothing, with nobody, with no help. And I'm sorry if that's raw. I'm sorry if that's the truth, but that's the truth, man. I can't sit here and lie to you and give you false hope when you already, yeah, look at your life. That should tell you how the freaking future is going to be. If you still not married yet and you're over 25, if you still a virgin and you're like 30, it's like, come on. It's over. There's no hope. It's none of this false hope here. You're not going to have it. That's a lot of people, they may not like my tonality because I'm just raw and I'm too raw because I don't have any filtration system. I don't have no filtration. I don't really, it goes straight from my brain, boom, to my mouth without any filtration. It's raw. It's uncut because I don't give a fuck, you know? I'm sick of holding my tongue. My whole life I was holding my tongue. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I'm going to speak the truth. The God of this world is evil and wicked and sadistic and crazy, and we're trapped in some evil hell realm being tortured just for the sick entertainment of this God. He does it because he does it because he wants to. He does it for a sick form of entertainment and to harvest our negative energies. There's a reason why there's even negative energy in the first place. What positive God will create so much negativity? What God who's loving and caring will make you feel any sort of pain? That sound right to you? You're talking about a being that has all type of infinite power, yet it creates a world where you're suffering all the time. Does that make any sense to you? Or does it seem like it's the demiurge from Gnosticism that's jealous of us and jealous of the divine spark? Remember what happened with the Tower of Babel. He said if man can do this, there's nothing that they couldn't do if they put their minds to it. And then he stopped it and broke it apart so we couldn't join forces. So this God gets intimidated whenever we put our minds together and come together. That's why he made different colors, different skin color configurations to keep us at a separation, to keep us at a devastation, to keep us in annihilation. This God knows exactly what it's doing. It's not a game, man. This world that we live in is a sick, twisted place. You got to be a soldier to survive. You got to be strong in the mind. Some people told me that I'm an inspiration to them, because the things I've survived, things I've been through, and I'm just like, hey, man, I appreciate it, bro, but I've been going through hard times for years, before I even had a YouTube channel, Thinking back on it, hell, I wish I would have started talking about my life. If I knew that all it would took to get people to listen was just start talking about my life and being real about it, not hiding it, not having no secrets, some people like what's that one guy? What was his name? Damn, I forgot his name. He was that gamer. What was his name? It's just right on the tip of my brain. Damn it. What was his name? I forgot his name, but he was a gamer guy and his audience loved him, right? But he never showed his face. And the moment that he showed his face and his audience looked at him because he was I think his name was Dream. I think it was a streamer named Dream. I think that's his name, Dream. But he showed his face, and then his audience pretty much abandoned him because he wasn't attractive or whatever, which is weird. So that means he must have had a lot of females on his audience, but you never know because a lot of these men be acting like women. They have the same mannerisms as females, right? So it's hard to tell the difference who his audience was, but they obviously didn't find him attractive, and then he just stopped streaming and he kind of fell off. But he was one of the top streamers. I think his name was Dream, and he showed it. So it just goes to show you how superficial people are. You telling me because of his looks you want to dismiss him? That's wrong. You don't judge people on the looks. You don't judge people on the skin color configuration. You don't judge people like that. There's times that you have to. If you're walking down the street and you see somebody with a hood over their head and they look a little shady, yes, it's common sense that you'd be on alert. But if you see somebody you see a regular black dude walking his dog and he got some shorts on, with a tank top, he's not there to cause trouble. You know that. He's walking his dog, right? Now, if you got 25 YNs and, they got the Glock, they got all these, they got the Draco with the drum, you know what I mean? And they smoking outside, then you can judge that a little differently, can't you? You see? You see how different scenarios and different situations require different cognitive functionalities, you know? Which means versatility is a powerful weapon, which means adaptability is a powerful thing to have. Humans survive this long because of our adaptability and versatility and viability when it comes to um, weapons of warfare. you know, it's a crazy world to live in, man. And I really wish things were different. I really wish this world was more fair. I wish it was a loving, caring place. I wish all of us right now had girlfriends and we had a good life. And I really wish we all were successful. I wish we all had the things that we really wanted in life and the things that we really wanted to achieve became true. But unfortunately, you know, whoever runs this world has its own agenda. And this agenda is not to make us wealthy or powerful or have a lot of women, but to make us absolutely destitute, economically destabilized, mentally annihilated, and just dreaming of wanting a woman. You know? Like, I wish I had me a girl right now, man. You know? A beautiful girl. You know? Let me hit her from the back. Make that nanny smack. you know? Give me fellatio with a high ratio. right? And then do some adult things. And get some sexual alleviation. And I think that's like, dude, that's normal for a healthy adult and healthy humans. It shouldn't be nothing that should be shamed or something frowned upon. Healthy a healthy sex life is totally normal. It's not normal to not have a sex life. That's not normal. It's not normal for a man who has testosterone, who has needs, physical intimacy needs that have to be met so he can have his confidence and have his mind. It's not normal for a man to go 3 years without touching a woman, 10 years without having sex, 5 years without having sex. Hell, it's not normal for a man to go 3 months without having sex. It's not normal for a because Chad and Tyrone, they're always getting laid. you know, that's like Chad and Tyrone is always getting laid, and the OnlyFans girls are always getting paid. It's absolutely brutal, man. I often wonder, man, how long is this hellish realm going to go on? How long? How long will this existence continue? When will it just fall and collapse? I wonder what's going to happen when this world, what if this world ends up like Fallout New Vegas, or Fallout 4, or Fallout 3, right? Or Fallout London. I think that's what it's called. I think that's a fan made game. And so far, what I've seen of it was pretty cool. Hell, it's better than Starfield or Star Garbage. That game's boring. you know. But you know what? I'll say about Starfield? When my grandma was passing away, I remember playing Starfield, and the game was so boring that I felt at peace. I remember playing that and the original Oblivion, and those two games like kind of putting my mind at ease. With the fact that I was losing my grandma, but it still wasn't really at ease. Like I was still going through it, but it's like it kind of like it put my emotions at ease when I was really, really going through it, right? And I would just play Starfield, and like the game is so boring. Like every location is pretty much the same. I'll just go around the city and just walk around slowly, and just and I'll just think about it because like the game, it didn't require that much cognitive functionality. So I give Starfield that. But as a game, and then it put me to sleep too. Like there was times I couldn't go to sleep, and I'll just play Starfield. I'm serious. Like there's only a few games that put me to sleep in life, and that's Devil May Cry 2. That game put me to sleep, like literally put me to sleep, and Starfield. These are the two games that actually put me asleep, and I actually go to these games to go to sleep. Like when I'm really tired and like I couldn't really sleep, hop on Starfield, play it for like 15, 20 minutes, and I'm out cold. You know, I remember one time I was climbing a ladder inside my ship, and I just fell asleep right there. You know, like I just like, and then woke up. Like, oh crap! You know, right? Like that's how boring those games are. I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it's just a bad thing if you want a game that's fun, but a good thing you want a game that puts you to sleep. You know, it's brutal.